Hey guys, I'm Jax, and this is my spoiler-free review for the new film Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. So let's cut straight to the chase. Is this film any good? It is genuinely, shockingly, surprisingly spectacular. It is amazing. It is actually just really, really great. It is so good. It was such a joyous, pure, joyful, amazing, fun experience. It is pure, joyous fun. Like, there was a couple of minutes at the start where there's a bit of narration and stuff's going on where you're like, okay, and it's trying to find its feet, and then suddenly there's just a couple of moments that happen, like within 2 or 3 minutes, and you're off to the races, and it is so fast. It is such a big movie. There is so much going on, but you never feel like it's rushing through things. You just think it somehow was able to tell so much story whilst never feeling like you're just like passing things by and never having time to like breathe and sit in these moments and these set pieces or these little fun little gags and bits. Nothing ever overstayed its welcome. Like, there was never a point in the film where you're just kind of looking at your watch being like, oh boy, still in this little town having this little kind of, rest period between the action and the set pieces and the fun comedy. It's like, it's just go, go, go. The film is gorgeous to behold. The practical effects combined with the CGI are just overwhelmingly stunning. It is a gorgeous, colorful, bright, bombastically crazy film. The film is so imaginative and wild and crazy. It has so much fun. Like, it is one of the most amazingly fun times I have had in the cinema for so long. Like, I love fantasy, and I love something not taking itself too seriously, but also being sincere. And this film nails all those three things so well. It is so beautifully sincere. It wears its heart on its sleeve. It's surprisingly emotional at times. Chris Pine's character is kind of the beating heart of the film, and it's like, it's never too overly sappy or corny. It's like just a perfect amount, and it comes in at those perfect moments that you need it to kind of, make the film not feel too silly and stupid, but it also embraces how completely insane and nonsense and just absurd this universe is. And it's so much fun. Like, it is so funny. One of the things I was afraid was the humor might be a bit like hit or miss. Like, some jokes were pretty funny, but a lot would kind of fall flat and might be trying too hard. One of the overwhelming things I felt in this film was the humor just landed. Like, there were maybe a couple of jokes right up front where I was like, okay, they're finding their footing. But after a certain point, like, you're just so on board with the film and the tone and the mood, and it's just super funny. I think the standout is Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant plays this kind of slimy, conniving kind of politician, like a bad guy, but not like super evil where you can't like enjoy him enjoying being evil. And that man is enjoying being evil. He is just so much fun. He's infectious. He's hilarious. Hugh Grant, ever since he's kind of gotten to that old man stage of his career where he's kind of like, still got that charming, sexy, grizzled kind of look, but he started to play kind of like slightly bad guys, like in The Gentleman, where he's like a bad guy, but not like a bad guy, like a bad guy that you want to root for. And in this, he does the same, and he steals the show. The story and the plot is definitely something we have seen in fantasy before, but when a film is this fun and this well made, and just every single other element is working so well, you don't need the story to blow your mind. It is, a classic story of a bunch of heroes get together, and it's kind of a ragtag group, and they've got to do a heist, and they've got to infiltrate a castle, and there's a cackling witch lady villain, and she's like, ha ha, I'm evil or whatever, and why do I want to be evil? Because evil's fun, ha ha ha. And then there's a sneaking politician man on the side who's like, I'm nefarious, but for real human reasons like greed and corruption or whatever. And then he's like, ha ha ha. Imagine that, but Hugh Grant doing it well with actual dialogue being that's just so funny. But you've seen a movie before that's set in the fantasy genre. The plot is that. It's kind of like that. But what they do with that kind of generic story and how they take us from A to B to C to D to E, it is just exciting. It's fun. The world feels fresh. And I think I forgot to say this actually. I was going to say this up top, but I didn't. I have never played D&D. I've watched friends play D&D. I've watched the kids on Stranger Things play D&D. I get it. There's dice, there's magic. You say kind of random stuff and you can kind of just make things happen or whatever. I'm sorry, I suddenly realized I I do not mean to offend anyone who's played D&D. I'm not trying to like trivialize it, be like, I get it. I'm just saying like, I understand the vague idea of the, the idea of the game. I'm not completely oblivious. You can kind of say things and do things and make things happen. And there's a bit of improv and it's a bit of fun with your friends. And I think, at least from what I've got, like maybe I'm totally wrong and this is going to really annoy D&D fans. I'm not sure about the lore. Maybe when they say a certain word or this and that, lore-heavy guys who are super into all that stuff are gonna kind of freak out. So I am not the guy to say if it works or doesn't work for D&D fans, people who are really, really into it, but I feel like that bond people have and that camaraderie and that teamwork and that kind of, shenanigans and shit-talking and just fun friend kind of banter. I feel like they got that in this movie. There are moments that feel kind of chaotic and insane and odd. Like there's a scene with a bunch of skeletons and the skeletons get 5 questions and then they go back to being dead. And just the way that kind of scene plays out and the way all that kind of plays out felt kind of appropriately chaotic and silly and funny, the way it would be if friends were doing it. Heaps of little moments in the heists, in the action, in the planning of plans. Characters would say and do things, then someone else would react and respond. And it all felt like it was just kind of, embracing and honoring the legacy and the kind of vibe of what at least I imagine D&D is like. And I think it did a really, really good job. I think the humor obviously is going to depend on everyone's personal humor taste. And I imagine with people who play D&D, if your friendship group has this very specific kind of humor and this movie is just like the opposite of that, it might just kind of annoy you. But I think it's kind of broad enough where you're going to appeal to a bunch of people, but also kind of, there were so many specific little jokes that I felt like were really surprisingly clever. And I'm not trying to be rude, being like, I didn't expect it to have actual good jokes. Just silly, silly jokes. It's like, no, it's just like really funny, clever jokes. Jokes that would be set up, then like a whole action scene would play out, and then they'd be paid off. Like the timing, like the comic timing of everybody was really, really good. Everyone is on fire in this movie. Chris Pine as the lead is brilliant. Michelle Rodriguez is usually always pretty great. In this, she's on fire. She's so good. She gets the best action scene as well, where she does some like wrestling, MMA style kind of fighting, and it's just genuinely spectacular. And they do not skimp on the budget. There is a cutaway scene via a joke, like a montage in a joke, and it's a battle scene. And it's on screen for like 20 seconds max, like probably 10 seconds, and it's incredible. It's gorgeous, it's fun. The film has such a brilliant way to make everything look awesome and cool and vibrant and colorful, but it doesn't kind of get bogged down in making everything photo real. Like it's not trying to be Game of Thrones where everything looks super real and gritty and dirty and slimy, but it never goes so far the other way where it doesn't feel real and lived in, but it still feels colorful and bombastic and just energetically wild. Like it's so cool. I love the visual design of this movie. It's so good. There is a big overweight dragon at one point, and that whole sequence is spectacular. This movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes. I would have watched it for 3 hours. I'd watch a 4-hour cut. I am more excited for the sequel to Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves than I am for the next Marvel movie. This movie, compared to the most recent Marvel movie, Ant-Man 3 made me hate CGI. It made me hate modern cinema for just how it looked like this glossy, disgusting vibe where it doesn't feel like anyone's there. It doesn't feel like anything's tangible. No one's touching anything. And then Dungeons and Dragons comes out, and there are scenes where Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez are like trying to escape from people, and it's like a real set, real walls. There's a real sword, and he's got his arms bound, and he's cutting real rope, and there's the sword, and then it will cut to a wide shot, and the castle is so big and expensively CGI. Like the money they must have thrown at this movie is crazy. It is so awesome that they had so much faith in the script and the story and the people behind this movie that they threw all the money at it and they gave them time to craft the CGI. There is a owl bear in it. I don't know what that is. It's awesome. It's so awesome. Just felt rich and lore heavy and awesome. Like there was just so much going on where someone would be like, oh no, we're getting time frozen or whatever. And I'm like, I bet you that's a D&D thing. And if it's not, it's just awesome. Like you take all the D&D stuff and maybe like, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Doesn't matter. Just awesome, awesome swords, magic, weird creatures. Like at one point, there's a cat guy and he's just a human man looking thing, but he's a cat. It's just wild. There's a bird character that kind of bookends with like this joke thing they do to bookend the story. He's the best character. Jonathan is the best character. I love Jonathan. I just. This movie's so good. It's so good.